Okay, Brazilian bubbles. Come on.
One thing about
I just
Porno
don't drink
Dave.
in the middle of the day, but whatever.
One thing about Porno Dave is he loves his champagne.
Yeah, who doesn't?
And when I was down there, it was when Dana Beers was just doing his Zillion Beers campaign. So Porno Dave started the Zillion Bubbles campaign
Oh, I love Zillion Bubbles.
and was just popping a lot of champagne.
Brazilian bubbles. Brazilian bubbles. There we go. Brazilian bubbles. I just drink. I just drink the cheap $15-$20 bottles.
That's how you got to do it.
If Trump gets his 200% tariffs, there'll be $60 bottles.
True.
Shit. All right, so let's rewind a little bit. Welcome to the pod, Porno Dave. He was just a diehard Stoolie who invited me down to his spot in the Bahamas when I was stranded in the U.S. without an apartment over COVID because my apartment was back in China. I couldn't go there.
Yeah.
Was still paying rent on that spot, so didn't really have the budget to be paying like a full-fledged rent here in New York or something. And so he was like, why don't you just come down here? I actually have the text that you sent me. It was a Twitter DM, actually.
They were quite long.
Oh, yeah, this was
I
as
have
I
an obsessive personality, and I kind of go off the reins.
As I know you are stuck for a while due to coronavirus, I was wondering if you'd be interested in coming to Eleuthera, Bahamas, where I live. I'm a huge fan and not some nut. Lol, if you type in my name, David Skarica, you can see I am a published author, financier, and have done a lot of financial media, etc. We could have a ton of good content. The Glass Window Bridge, where the Atlantic meets the Caribbean, the Blue Holes, which are like 500-foot deep sinkholes that are in the middle of the ocean, Lighthouse Beach. We can meet a lot of the crazy drunks and characters on the island, plus, of course, some conch rangoons. We can go to my buddy Mark's house, which is on 50-foot stilts right on the ocean. Not to mention, Mark is a crazy drunk, too. And
Fuck it, I'm in.
I think we checked off all of those boxes.
Yeah. We saw you got a unique view of the bridge when you first came in because there was the rage was going on.
Yes. So Eleuthera, it's a very long, thin island in the Bahamas. I had never heard of it. And at one point, the island is so thin that when like the seas are rough, they kind of just like wash over the island and you can't drive from the north part to the south part or whatever. So we had to like hop on a rickety boat and just literally take it. And we got right off the plane and then they loaded us onto this boat with like a bunch of tourists. Everyone has like 3 suitcases. And then just like where we got on the boat and where we got off was like almost like a cliff with all these sharp rocks around. It was a hazard, but made it there. And I didn't come alone. I came with my girlfriend and I thought I had explained the whole situation to my girlfriend. Oh, some guy on Twitter invited us to the Bahamas. Do you want to go? But I don't think she really heard what I was saying. So then we were like at the airport and she was like, so how do you know this guy? And I was like, just a Twitter DM. And she was like, what? You have never met this dude? And I was like, oh, and by the way, he goes by Porno Dave. One thing you told me, you were like, oh, I know Large's neighbor. So
Yeah.
And so I went over to Large and I was like, is this guy your neighbor? And Large was like, yeah, but we're not like close friends or anything like that. He's like, I don't really know my neighbor that well. But
he didn't say he was friends. He said Large is my neighbor. So there you go.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you want to tell us how you got the nickname Porno Dave?
Well, I actually did. Okay, so I dated 2 famous porn stars, and the one we'll name, the other one we'll keep her in the background, right? But the one was like Selena Rose. So I just met her online, and you don't really have to have game. Like the best pickup line is, "Hey, I lived in the Bahamas. You want to come?"
It worked on me.
Yeah, exactly. So, and we just started talking, and I first visited her in Florida, and then this was when I was looking for my house here in Eleuthera, and she came, and we stayed at a resort. It's called Sky Beach. We went there. Remember, that's when you were swimming around.
Yes,
and you scared off the locals by telling them you lived in China.
Yes.
Yeah. So, anyhow, we stayed there, and there's 2 stories that really made it. Was there was a remember you stayed at another place called Coco de Mama, which is
Hmm.
this beautiful beach on the Caribbean side.
Yeah.
So one night at Coco de Mama, we were coming home from somewhere else, and it was like 8 p.m. at night, and I was like, I don't really feel like going back to the hotel yet. And it was June, which is kind of like dead season here, right?
Yeah.
Because yeah, people are still in school and it's not summer yet. So anyhow, there was no one at the bar except for like like a waitress, this old guy who you met, Jim,
Hmm.
and the owner, and she did like 7 shots of tequila and started flashing like the people that were in the bar on this sitting on this old guy's lap,
Okay.
right?
Legend.
And yeah, and then people knew she was a famous porn star. And then when we were staying at Sky Beach, there are these big houses there, but they're quite exposed to the local roads that go to the hotel, like bar and pool. And she was just walking around naked all the time. And then so what was funny is because there's no traffic, right? Because this is a little side road. I noticed the traffic started increasing, right, when she was walking around naked. And
Yes.
then one day, I have a big Super Bowl party every year. And after the Super Bowl, we put on music and we're just like partying. And this one girl is like dancing with me, and she points at me like this, goes, "I know who you are, Porno Dave." And I was like, "What?" And that was like the first time I'd heard it. And I guess like the reputation from her name is Selena Rose, the porn star. And I was like, I guess that's my nick. And this island's weird in that because it's so small, everyone has little nicknames. Like Morgan, who we're going to talk about, is Captain Morgan, and my I got a friend down the road named Pete who owns a Dome. They call him Dome Pete. So everyone has these like little nicknames and stuff, right? So
Yes. And Selena Rose has actually popped up in a Barstool video when Portnoy did his first
yeah.
AVN convention
Oh.
awards video. Didn't he get into like a fingering competition with her? Or
Oh
something?
yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. She was like so wasted and drunk, and easily the most wasted porn star there, right? At the at the AVN Awards. And she just started like saying stuff about grabbing his crotch and she was like all over him. So maybe she likes Jewish guys named Dave. So
Maybe
Yes.
that's
She
her
may have a
kink, yeah.
fetish. And Selena Rose like lived with you down there for what, like 3 or 4 months?
Oh, no, no, no. She just stayed with me for a few weeks, like visiting and stuff like that. And we only dated for like 3 or 4 months because
Okay.
that was like she was kind of like she was at a contract with what was called Digital Playground,
Hmm.
which does kind of those high ends videos. So she was kind of out of control at the time. Like she was only like 20, 21 years old. I was in my early 30s at the time.
Yes.
And she would work like 2 days a month because she had a contract, like make pretty good money and just be like partying the rest of the time. And it was just too much. And she was really into like, I don't want to like, because she seems like a nice, like I was still friends with her afterwards, but she's just like way too much into drugs and just getting drunk every day. And I just couldn't take it after a while. And
Okay.
actually she fooled around with some guy who she ended up stalking her. And the guy ended up calling me, and like, it was out of a movie. The guy was like, "I'm going to kill you if you don't get away from her," and like stuff like that. And I was like, okay, I think this is over. you know.
Porn
So
stars. Porn stars always come with a lot of baggage, I'm sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Yeah, well
well, I
that's
showed you the story about her breaking up the big drug ring, right?
yeah, so this was like a few years after you guys had dated?
Well, this is literally because remember the whole article and trial didn't happen a few years later. This is literally the next guy she dated after me. He was
Okay.
some guy who was in the military, and him and his buddies, when they left the military, had no work and nothing to do.
Yeah,
So
he
what
was
do you do?
actually a Marine.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. And
So
then
what do you do? You import Molly from China
Mhm.
and
yes,
turn it into
yes.
ecstasy and sell it.
You sent me the article. She started dating an ex-Marine in Miami who had to like leave the force because of he got hurt or something. I'm not sure, but he left the force and then started importing like fake Molly from China and selling it.
Yeah.
And dating this porn star. And somehow the porn star ended up like busting this entire drug ring.
Yeah.
Like, how did that happen?
She jumped on his car naked while on drugs in the middle of Brickell, downtown Miami. I guess because he was one thing about her, even though I told you that story, is that like she's Cuban and she still was possessive and jealous, right?
Hmm.
And it was like if you're her boyfriend, you were her boyfriend. You weren't allowed to like date other girls, even though she did porn, right? It was like I guess this guy was fooling around with other girls and she found out. and she was all hyped up, and she ran out naked on the street. He was like, I'm getting out of here because they were fighting. And she jumped on his car, and then she got arrested for indecent exposure. And I guess she told the cops, "You should see all the weird packages this guy get," because she was angry, right? And then they raided his house.
He's like, what the fuck?
What the fuck? And yeah, now he's doing like 5 years in jail.
And then here's what I think though. He ratted out his buddies. And I think something happened recently with it. This is because I still talk to her, like we DM on Instagram, and we're just friends. And I haven't seen her really since that time. We just keep in contact, talk once or twice a year. But anyhow, all of a sudden last summer she stopped talking to me, and then I looked at everything, like from her Twitter to Instagram to OnlyFans. Like she hadn't signed on in anything since August. So it's like there's two things to me: either she's in rehab, getting porn star, or I think she might be in witness protection. Like one or two of these guys maybe are out of prison now, and they might say, "Hey, you gotta like hide yourself because we don't know what these guys could do," right?
Sure.
Yeah. So yeah. So
Now the original plan when I went down there is I was going to cat sit for you because you had a trip to Toronto planned. So you
my
were
cat
like,
is still alive. Oh, if she comes by, I'll show.
Okay.
She's pretty cute. Oh yeah. So, but she's walking around somewhere. So
yeah. So I think the original plan is that I was only gonna be like seeing you, hanging out with you for like a day or two, and then you had to fly to Toronto, and me and my girlfriend were just gonna stay at your house and watch the cat. But after we arrived, a day or two later is when like COVID really hit the fan. Like shit hit the fan. The whole world went into lockdown. You were like, I can't travel to Canada.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think Canada was quite in lockdown yet, but I knew it was going to happen. And I'm like, I don't want to be stuck up there for months and months, right? If I'm going to be stuck anywhere during COVID, Eleuthera was a pretty good place to get stuck, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So then the first few nights, you like have friends that have Airbnbs there and stuff, and you just put me and my wife in these spots for free. They were beautiful. One was on like a cliffside on the island. Another one was right on the beach. And then me and my wife now just had to move in with you. And it was quite an experience. You do have a beautiful spot. It's got views of the Caribbean Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean.
I'm on so actually someone recently sent me, because I'm trying to buy a couple lots around me, like a topography map. So there's these few lots, and I'm one of them, that over 100 feet above sea level. And it's probably the only few areas of the Bahamas that are like that, because the Bahamas is mostly flat, right? Maybe you'll have little 30-foot, 40-foot hills in places like Nassau. So yeah, and because the island, like you said, is thin, I get the Caribbean and the Atlantic. And so I get to see the sunrise and the sunset. So it's pretty cool.
Amazing.
Yeah. And I fixed up the house a lot since you left. Like, I don't know, you see in the background of all these neon lights, and I put this kind of like stone tiling on the walls and new floors and new windows. And so it's kind of like a club at night with all the neon lights and stuff. So kind of fits the porno Dave vibe.
Hell yeah.
Yes, it definitely gives off porno pad vibes. Now when we moved in with you, that's when we got to meet all the absurd characters that are in your life. You have a caretaker named Captain Morgan, and then you kind of have like a cook, or is she the cleaning lady named Laverne?
And for people who haven't seen the videos yet, the backstory was I ran into her van and dented her van when I was backing out one day, when it was like the lockdowns were about to happen. So I was like, I got to get supplies. Mostly I got to get booze. And so I backed into it, and then I told her she'd be my maid for life. And I fired her and rehired her about 3 times since then.
Yeah.
So, because she's a little difficult to take, and so she has a bad temper, I would say, And Captain Morgan has a very interesting backstory. We were talking about beforehand, talking about it. So he's kind of my handyman, and he was rich for a while. So he's the star, in my opinion, of the last video, when he's totally.
He's the star, but he also did some very out of line things, which
he was
we'll talk
off
about.
Camera. He was obnoxious.
But
and he's out of line.
Let's talk about this guy's backstory, because this should be a movie.
Okay.
So this is a local guy, right? born and
Yeah.
raised in the Bahamas.
His father is actually from the Turks and Caicos, and for those who don't know, the Turks and Caicos were separated and became its own little country because they didn't want to join the Bahamas, and the Bahamas became independent. Okay,
Okay.
so his dad was part from the Turks and Caicos when it was still part of the Bahamas, moved here and married his mom. His mom worked for the phone company. This is where the boring part ends. His dad was a drug dealer, right? Who got killed when he was about Morgan was about 13 or 14 years old. Got shot right in town,
Okay.
right?
Wow.
Right. And then Morgan kind of took up the family business, and he's also a boater and fish and stuff like this. So what happened was the main drug dealer in town got extradited to the States, I'd say about 20, 25 years ago. Right. And for a while now, there's a lot more going on here with construction, real estate, resorts. But Eleuthera was pretty like either you're a fisherman or you were a drug dealer. Like for a while, or you had a farm. Like really, that's what was going on for a while. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So anyhow, when that drug dealer got extradited, Morgan kind of took over and had $1 million or $2 million of coke on him, and he made all this money. He married this white woman from the States named Kimberly, and they got married at this really nice house that's on top of the hill that overlooks the town.
Okay.
Right, but he wasn't the most loyal husband, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was a hardcore partier, and he was just like, he thought the drug money was never going to end. Like supposedly one infamous story about him is he would just buy new Nikes every single day. He would just buy like a new pair of $150 Nikes every day. He put $20 in his car and give $100, to the gas attendant, like stuff like that. He was just out of control spending and stuff. And anyhow, so one day he got in a motorcycle accident, and I think their marriage was on the rocks. Half his body got paralyzed. Right? He was in the hospital, and she made him sign something, and he thought it was signing over like, she's in charge of whatever, his health
Mm-hmm.
in the hospital. But no, he basically signed over the house to her. Okay. and then she divorced him. And then the drug money kind of ran out, and he's just kind of like done odd jobs since. And he's a raging alcoholic. And I think he's still kind of in love with her. And he's just like, never gotten over it, and he's obviously does drugs and alcohol to numb the pain. So like he's like, yeah, and he gets out of control too. Like you can talk about if you want to talk about where he's there. Yeah. But it's his life can be a movie. Like listen to that.
Yeah. So he went from like one of the richest guys on the island to now he's just your caretaker, and he also is a stone crab fisherman. So have you had stone crab before?
I have.
I think it's the one type of seafood that might be better than lobster.
I love it. Yeah.
Delicious, but very expensive here. He would just show up at Dave's house with like a giant bag of stone crabs. He'd be like, "Here you guys go. This is for lunch."
Damn.
Yeah. Well, you want to hear a funny story? So he went stone crabbing just recently, and he made about $1,500 or so working a few days on the boat, right? And a lot of Joe stone crab, especially in Florida, the chain, they come from here. They're the ones that come from here, right?
Yeah.
So they're trying to export this to the States, and they're having all the problems because now there's all these tariffs on it, and they don't know what the hell to do. So it's all sitting in Nassau in the Bahamas right now, like crates and crates of stone crab because the tariffs have like screwed the whole thing up.
Shit.
Damn. So does Captain Morgan's wife still live on the island in his home that he
It's
like
kind of
signed to
both
her?
their homes. Yeah, she lives in it. It's her home now. Like it's a rental as well. And she always has little kind of sugar babies, like sugar, like
Sugar
younger
daddies?
Yeah, well, no, she's the sugar mommy, right?
Oh,
She,
yeah.
yeah. She has the guys that kind of take care of the house and help her out and stuff. The younger guys, like she's just about 60, but she used to be like really good looking. You can tell. Like she told me she used to model. She's long blonde hair, blue eyes, and thin, right? And she's from North Carolina. And I guess one of her family members is from Spanish Wells, the white Bahamian island here.
Mhm.
So that's how she can get residency and stuff here. So yeah, she still lives in that house. And like I said, I think someone told me she's looking to sell it, but I don't know. She really likes it down here. So
Yeah.
I kind of have a casual relationship with her. Like I'm friendly with her, and I talk to her once or twice a year, but not too often. She actually the other day, about a few months ago, tried to run him over.
Okay. All right. Sounds like they have a healthy relationship. So I thought Captain Morgan was the man. We were having a great time on the island, but as Dave said, he does have an alcohol problem. And one of our last days on the island,
Captain Morgan does?
Captain Morgan does.
Damn.
But he doesn't drink Captain Morgan. He drinks, he was just like walking around with a bottle of vodka that day. And then we hop in Dave's car. We're driving to this cenote, or is it like a sinkhole? Those like deep blue holes that you can swim in. Yeah. And me and Dave are in the front. We're like talking. We got some music on, and my girlfriend and Captain Morgan are in the back. So we didn't hear this happen. My girlfriend told me after we got out of the car that at one point Captain Morgan, I guess, like took out his dick and was asking her to touch it.
What?
Yeah. And Kira was like, no. And he was not happy. Like, he never put a hand on her or anything like that, but he was like, touch my dick, touch my dick. And then we heard about that later, and I was like, all right, Captain Morgan, you gotta take a seat, dude. Like, you gotta stay the fuck away from her. He did, when he finally sobered up, he like felt horrible about it, but I was like, all right, I gotta keep my distance.
Yeah.
That's what he always, like, he can't get into hard liquor. Are you going to go with the bottle of fucking vodka?
No, leave the vodka.
Leave the vodka. It's going to get fucked up down there.
Captain Morgan is in there nude now.
Hey, man, you're naked. Get away from her.
Hey, Morgan, Morgan, stay away from my girlfriend.
Yeah, come on, man.
All right. No offense. Captain Morgan, I'm blocking it up.
Like, he can drink beers and he's fine. Like, the other day he was here. Another thing he does when he starts getting into hard liquor, he just wants to call everyone. I'm like, Sean, stop calling girls. You're drunk out of your mind. You're just embarrassing yourself. Yeah. No girls want to talk to a guy who's just, slurring his own speech and over his own words. And so anyhow, he did that the other day. He came to my house. He just started getting into actually was rum, right? And then like the next day, a friend of mine told me, he's like, he almost got locked up last night because he just goes into town and acts completely out of control. I don't get that, because if I'm drunk on champagne or beer or hard liquor, I'm kind of the same. You know, I just, and I want to sleep. Like, I just want, if I get to that point where I'm too much, I just want to find my pillow and pass out. Mm-hmm. I don't want to go fight people and be belligerent. I don't get it, but that's what he is.
He used to have a pretty serious crack problem as well, right?
Yep.
Okay, but he is now off the crack, right?
Captain Morgan's a fucking wild card.
Yes, a wild card.
Don't give him the brown stuff, or he's gonna get you to touch his dick again.
He's got a heart of gold, but don't let him within 20 feet of your girlfriend.
I mean, we've all have. My buddy Cody was like that, like absolute wild card, piece of shit. Like the best dude on a guy's trip, best dude to be around. But if anyone that you actually valued them as a person was around, you don't want them there.
That happens. But I mean, I think I made stone crab rangoons with Captain Morgan, and I made conch rangoons with Laverne. Some of the best rangoons I've ever made.
Yeah, I'm a huge conch fritter guy.
Yeah.
If I can segue into another story, and I talked about this with you on a little podcast I did with some friends of mine. Because we're talking about drugs. So I met this Stoolie like about a year after the videos, about 2021, right?
Yeah.
It might have been it was summer of 2020. It was a few months after.
Backing up, like my time in the Bahamas, I filmed a whole like 6 or 7 part video series.
Okay.
So if you guys want to watch that, you can watch that.
And if anyone wants to remember COVID, it's really interesting, not just because of the crazy stuff we're talking about, because you see the COVID stuff all advancing and then the lockdowns happen. So it's kind of an interesting like timeline of how everything kind of got, more serious. So anyway, I meet this Stoolie. He lives from Kansas City. He's got a big beard, looks like Duck Dynasty or ZZ Top kind of guy, right? And, he loved the videos. We both he's a big Chiefs fan. I'm a Raiders fan. And anyhow, so we're both like, we kind of like hit it off, became friends. But his another guy is a raging alcoholic, right? And he was coming here all the time. So he ended up renting a little house down the road from me. And this was like a total coincidence. So anyhow, the DEA did a raid. They were looking for people hide out like cocaine and weed in the bush here. Donnie can tell you, this is not a built up place. I'm surrounded by trees and bush and stuff like that. So all of a sudden I see these helicopters one day, just like circling the house and coming over. And I've seen it once before. And I was like, oh my God, it's a DEA raid. Right. And then I see literally guys dropping out of the helicopters, like a couple hundred feet just north of my house. And people telling me, the house your buddy's renting, they're raiding that house. And I just knew, I was like, he's going to tell them I'm his friend and they're going to come up here. Right. And they did. All of a sudden, like through my neighbor's yard, like 20 DEA agents and local police are all like in my house and looking for drugs in my house. And I don't do any drugs at all. I don't even smoke weed, right? I just
Yeah.
drink,
Yeah.
right? And then one of their dogs started barking, and one of the guys got all excited, like they found me, and it was because the dog saw my cat, which is barking at my cat. So I had the DEA basically raid my house, and I didn't care. I was like really laid back. And the guy, I actually have one of the signs behind me says Porno Dave's Fun Bar. So I started telling one of the agents about like dating the porn stars, and he was laughing and stuff. But it was pretty insane. Like, yeah, having like 10 DEA agents or whatever it was in your house.
They probably weren't even going to go to your place until the guy said, yeah, my buddy Porno Dave. And they're like, Porno Dave, we got to go check that out. There's probably something nefarious there.
Yes.
And I don't vouch for him at all because he was so out of control drunk and his backstory was so weird. I was like, I told him, I said, I don't know. I think the guy's kind of weird. Like there could be something. I wasn't like, oh, he's a great guy. No, I didn't like because he was a weird guy. I don't talk to him anymore. I think.
And is that why they were there? Like, did they find drugs on his property?
What they ended up doing was because I was leaving 2 days later, no matter what. I was actually going back to Canada, but I was doing it regardless. Like, I already booked the trip. They found like a water tank of a house that was a little north. They were looking for like $1 million of coke. I think they ended up finding a couple $100,000 worth of marijuana in this water tank. So they did find something. Well,
that's a bummer. If you're looking for $1 million worth of coke as a DEA agent, all you find is some weed.
Yeah.
Who cares about that stuff?
Mid.
They had airplanes.
Yeah, mids, dude.
They had airplanes and helicopters like that. That operation probably cost them that couple $100,000, you know? Like, so.
I think we should explain to the listeners how you ended up in the Bahamas in the first place, because you're from Canada. You told me you were the youngest Canadian to pass the trading test, in order to trade stocks or something like that.
Yeah. When I graduated high school half a year early, not really because I was super smart. It was because back then we had a grade 13 and anyone could you could still get it done in 4.5 years, instead of 5. So then that half year I had to kill before university. I was like, well, I might as well just take, it's called the CSC. That's the, the Series 7 in the States. That's the Canadian equivalent. So I took it and I passed it because I'd been interested in stocks since I was 15 or 16 years old. So I passed it and then I got my trading license. And then it was during the .com bubble. I'm 47. So, and during the .com bubble, I kind of thought, well, if I go to university and when I get out, the bubble's going to burst and there's going to be no jobs in finance. So I'm just going to start my own little publication and newsletter and manage some friends and family's money, which I did. And that was all probably in my late teens to early 20s. And then in the mid 2000s, I decided I wanted to move offshore because Canada's bad weather, high taxes. I can do my job from anywhere. And see the difference between being Canadian and American, actually almost any other country in the world other than American, is that we can move offshore and you become a non-resident. So you become a resident in where you live and you don't have to pay Canadian income tax. It's totally legal, to do. Okay. Right? Americans, you're taxed on citizenship. Yeah. So if you move to the Bahamas, you would still have to file with the IRS and stuff like that, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to file with we call it Canada Revenue Service. You have to file with them and say, okay, I'm living offshore, and you have to spend half a year plus 1 day outside the country, right? Mm-hmm. So then I just became a resident in the Bahamas. I lived in Nassau for 5 or 6 years. The crime was getting bad. I'm from a small town. It was getting overpopulated. And I was like, I'd rather live in one of these smaller islands. And I went over to Luther. And actually what sold me right away was I brought my car over on the boat. It's only a 2-hour boat ride. And then I went over that glass window bridge at sunset. And I was like, yeah, this is amazing. I'm moving here, And then, and at that time, the real estate prices have really boomed here. But at that time, real estate was much cheaper in Eleuthera than Nassau as well. But what's happening is because of COVID, people kind of wanted to get away from the city, and that really, Eleuthera is booming. There's been articles in Wall Street Journal, New York Times on the place. Actually, one of my neighbors, I met him one time, about a year ago, I met him for the first time, bought a house here. His name is Todd Wade. He was actually the starting right tackle for the Miami Dolphins and Houston Texans for a while, and he's got a house down the road from me.
Lenny Kravitz lives on Eleuthera too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does he bring his big scarf?
I don't know if it's scarf weather down there.
He's ridiculous. He bikes up and down the island in full leathers. It's so ridiculous.
What a legend.
Yes. Yeah, he's got a straight up mansion down there.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say huge cock.
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. He's got a little one bedroom.
Oh no,
Actually,
we're talking about his cock.
he doesn't on both accounts.
Oh,
How do you know about his cock?
Because he was at you can just look it up online. He was singing at a concert and his leather pants ripped.
oh
And
shit.
it was kind of hanging out, and it wasn't
Very average.
pretty-
Yeah.
Very average. Yeah.
All right,
So
Goldfinger, bring up Lenny Kravitz's
Yeah,
cock.
pull that up.
and then his house is here. They call it the Love Shack. It's just like a little studio house, it's all macked out, right? And then he's got his music studio, and he has this online too. And then he lives in a trailer next to the music studio. It's like a macked out trailer. So he doesn't have like a big mansion down here.
Oh, okay.
And there's this little enclave. Remember we went to Golden Key quickly? That was the beach where Darth Vader, Hayden Christensen used to have the house.
Okay.
I told that story quickly.
Yes, yeah, I think so.
I'll tell that story in a second, but he's just got his own little private beach there he hangs out on. And they call it Kravitz Naked Beach. I guess he hangs out there naked all the time.
Okay.
Get a drone.
Yeah. Yeah, well, my girlfriend, I would say her experience, I mean, it was like a little traumatic for her, just with like all the crazy shit going down with Captain Morgan and like
I would say so.
yeah, and then like
You guys didn't know where we were going to live. Like I remember you guys had,
Yeah.
'cause lockdowns were happening, and yeah.
but I think overall, like now she looks back on it and she was like, yeah, that was kind of fun.
Does
But-
she?
Maybe we'll have to have her on the pod at some point. I think her only complaint is when we moved into your place. So like she went into the bathroom and there was a bunch of ants eating a giant moth, and that kind of freaked her out.
Yeah, they call them money bats. So they are these gigantic moths. And my cat they actually say if they land on you, they're good luck. You're going to get money. That's what they call them, money bats.
Oh,
Okay, cool.
So it's a superstition here. But yeah, you see them flying around once in a while. And my cat probably killed it. And then, a bunch of ants. Probably a bunch of ants started.
Yes.
So-
It was a very tumultuous week. Our first day hanging out, he was like, I want to show you the old Club Med here. And
mistake.
it had closed down like 10 years prior, something like that. So it's like all abandoned and we're just exploring the ruins of it. And Dave's foot like goes through the roof of something and he falls over and dislocates his shoulder. Oh shit! Are you okay? Yeah. All right. Has this happened before? No.
Shit.
Yeah.
That's a tumble. That's a big fall.
Oh, no, it was deep. The thing was probably, I'm about 6 foot tall. So it was probably 4 to 5 foot deep, because I remember when I lifted myself out, I knew it right away. I've never dislocated. I've dislocated my knee a bunch of times. I did play football, and but I've never done my shoulder. And right away I knew. I was like, yeah, it's popped out. And then we run around. We go to a local like walking clinic. This woman gives me a weight. We're doing all this crap. Then finally we get back to the house Donnie's staying at. I go on Google and says, do this, and you go like this, and you pull your and it pops right back in.
Yeah. Yeah, because like when it happened, I didn't know what to do. I called up Roan because I know it happens to Roan a lot.
I picked up the phone, and it was a frantic person on the other line. I didn't know who it was, but clearly it was Donnie after a second. And he said that someone had popped their shoulder out, and he knows that I popped my shoulder out, and maybe I could help him. My first thought was, why would you not call a doctor, contact a doctor, 911, look up someone who is actually a medical professional other than just an asshole like me?
And like Roan tried to give me some tips over the phone. That did not work. But yeah, we finally got your shoulder back in place.
A cool story about Club Med is a friend of mine got some of the old tiles from the old resort, and I'm going to buy them from him, and I'm going to make them. I have a little island in my kitchen, and I'm going to put them on my island in my kitchen. So it's kind of cool. They're the old tiles from like the old Club Med, like 30 years ago.
That is
right?
cool.
So
Nice.
yeah. And it shut down because in 1999 it was Hurricane Floyd. It was called, destroyed it, and they I guess they realized it wasn't worth rebuilding.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I will say Eleuthera was stunningly beautiful. They have these spots called the Queen Baths, which are just these like natural pools that form from like high and low tide. And I think I put that on my top 5 hippo mode spots in the world.
I think that might classify as a billabong too.
It could be a billabong.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're like these like stone natural pools where you can just chill in and watch the sunset. They also have
But it's so warm too.
Yeah,
Because it's shallow.
It warms up. They also have an area of Eleuthera, which is the fanciest part of the island. Is that called Harbor Island?
Yeah, Harbor Island is to the north, and that's where like billionaires, we met the two Austins, right?
Yeah. Like I was down there, and a Stoolie saw that I was on island, and he was like, "Hey, we're staying at my friend's place on Harbor Island. You should come hang out for the day." We show up. Turns out his friend's mom is the caretaker for the former owner of the Miami Dolphins. What was that guy's name?
Wayne Huizinga.
Wayne Huizinga.
Yeah.
So Wayne
Blockbuster Video.
Yeah, he also owned Blockbuster, Waste Management, and he had also passed away a couple years prior. And so they were just staying at this guy's like gigantic mansion, and it's all like Miami Dolphins themed. And so we just hung out in the guest house of the mansion for like a day, and they had a boat driver that came over and took us we got to go spearfishing for spiny lobsters. And then we like caught the lobsters, brought them back to this mansion, and cooked spiny lobster rangoon. So those are my number one rangoon of all time.
Damn.
So that was like all this just like weird shit was going on. And like meanwhile, everybody's back in New York just freaking out because they had just gone into lockdown. They can't leave their shoebox apartments. And then they're just seeing me just like showboating around the Bahamas.
I'm getting 2 pallets worth of groceries delivered to my garage in
Yeah.
Texas.
And meanwhile, I'm at Wayne Huizinga's mansion in the Bahamas.
Yeah.
People are like, what the fuck is this guy doing?
I remember exactly what Wayne Huizinga looks like too. Just from old, like probably from the time that the Jags beat the Dolphins 62-7 in the playoffs.
Oh shit. Okay.
Looking up and when they do like the scan to the owner and he was looking so sad.
Oh,
Because it
yeah.
was Dan Marino's last year.
Damn.
So you want me asking, you're a Jags fan?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, okay, well, because I'm a Raiders fan. When I met Todd Wade, and Donnie can tell you I'm a nut, like old school football and stuff, right? Like I have a Villapiano jersey on right now, right?
Okay.
That's in the Raiders back in the 70s. I'm actually wearing it because this is what I was wearing, Donnie, when I picked you up from the dock. So, yeah, so.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah. So anyhow, when I met the Todd Wade guy, I was like telling him about a playoff game where the Raiders beat them 27-0. And I was talking about the Raiders had a cornerback named Torrey James, and he had this interception return touchdown. And he was like, "Oh yeah, I played in that game." But he thought I was a nut. He was kind of looking at me like, "Who is this guy?" He knows every detail of some football game like 24 years ago.
Yeah, that's like you're like one of your favorite pastimes is watching the NFL films vids from like the 80s and 90s.
90s and actually 60s and 70s too.
Oh shit.
Because if you remember, we went by Sam Spence, the guy who wrote all the music for NFL films.
Yeah.
We went by his old house in Duluth. He had a place here.
That is some of my favorite music. Have you ever like the music they play in those old NFL films videos? It's like dun 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 dun.
Oh, yeah.
Dun dun dun.
The frozen tundra of Lambeau Field.
Yes, exactly. That music is great. And I guess it was one guy who made all the music for those videos, and he used to live on that island too.
Yeah, he had a place here. He lived in Germany, and then he had a place here.
Okay.
Right. So
shout out Sam Spence. He's a genius.
Yeah, he actually, you know what's so funny? And this got to be like some kind of sign. He passed away the day of the Super Bowl when he passed away. Like,
damn.
who else should die the day of the Super Bowl but Sam Spence, right?
Yeah.
It's just like the Pope passing away on Easter Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild.
Oh.
We were also down there for St. Patty's Day, and I remember you had a bunch of people over to your spot. That was a lot of
and we had like a little showing of the first video.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And I remember because these people didn't know what it was going to be. And when you played the little clip of Selena Rose with Portnoy, the thing we talked about earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a bunch of graphic sexual talk in that little clip.
Yeah.
These two girls sitting on my couch were like, "Oh."
Yeah.
No, you can't go over to somebody's house named Porno Dave and be surprised when there's a little finger blasting going on.
Yeah. Come on. And so now, like, you just trade stocks full time, and then you also like write some financial books.
Yeah, I had a new book. It just got published on Tuesday. It's called Mega Returns. It's actually published by HumanX, which is the publishing arm of Newsmax. I've worked for Newsmax for 16 years. I really don't have anything to do with the political side. I work for kind of the finance arm. And Newsmax just had a big IPO. I actually did really well in that too. I participated in that. So anyhow, so they published it, and it's kind of about this philosophy I have investing of buying assets really, really cheap and selling them obviously after they go up in price. And it's actually based after
Isn't that the most like basic financial principle ever? Buy low and sell high.
Yeah, most people want to buy high and sell higher. Most people get caught up in bubbles and hype and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
You actually want to buy stuff when it's out of favor and hated. So even though it's low, most people don't want to buy it at that point, right?
Okay.
So yeah, it's like a kind of contrarian philosophy. A guy named John Templeton kind of perfected it, and he actually lived in the Bahamas for over 40 years. He moved from the States to the Bahamas. He's a very famous investor, and he called it maximum pessimism. So you buy like the best time to buy is not the last few years. It was 2009 when everything had collapsed and no one wanted to buy stocks because everyone was scared, right?
Yeah.
So and I've changed Addicted to Profits, my old newsletter, into called profitfrompessimism.com too. So
Profit from Pessimism. All right, if you're listening, definitely check that out.
Yeah. So there is one thing I wanted to show you because this is a cool story too. I don't know because I can't see myself. Can you see there's like a Bourbon Street sign above my TV there?
Yes.
That was the actual sign. That was the Bourbon Street sign for a while. Yeah, the one from Bourbon Street.
Nice.
My friend down the road, you met him. He was at the party named Scotty. He was drunk one night with a friend and they took it down. And he had it for years. And he says, I'm going to give it to you. You're the only one who appreciate this.
Let's go.
And you can see the Barstool Bahamas, I think, sign.
Oh, yeah. It's kind of hard to read that, but that's what that blue sign says in the back.
I love it.
Barstool Bahamas. Yeah. Yeah. You're a big Frank the Tank fan, right?
Yeah. I'll talk to him because what I'd like to do, I told him about this in a DM one time. So before the NFL got a lot better, in the 60s, the NFL teams used to play CFL teams and AFL teams used to play CFL teams. And the only time a CFL team ever beat the NFL team is the Hamilton Tiger Cats. That's where I'm from. Beat the Bills in the 60s in like a preseason game.
Okay.
So I would like to take Frank to the day that it happened in front of the stadium in Hamilton, and we could talk that story. And then the high school next to the stadium.
I bet he would fucking love that.
Yeah,
he would love that. Yeah, for sure.
And then we got two other cool tie-ins we can do. Is the high school next to the stadium? It's called Bernie Custis High School, and he was the first ever African American quarterback. He played for Syracuse, and then he played in Hamilton. And the reason he went to Hamilton is this was in the 50s, and the U.S. wouldn't allow black quarterbacks, African American quarterbacks at the time.
Okay.
And in the 50s, actually, CFL players made more than NFL players, and he was my principal in grammar school.
Oh wow.
And he was also Al Davis's roommate at Syracuse, the former owner of the Raiders. Yeah. That's why I'm a Raiders fan. And then finally, because it's hot dogs, I worked at a place called Easterbrook's. It's in a town called Burlington. It's right next to Hamilton. And it's 100 years old. It's a funky old building that's got like old shooting games from the 1930s. And they do foot-long hot dogs, so I could take him there for one of his hot dog reviews.
Isn't that the guy that Al Davis in his biography credits him for like removing a lot of his racist ideology because he was roommates with him, and like that's the
totally
reason why
him.
he had Art what's his fucking name, Art Shell was like the first black GM coach. And GM, right?
Yeah, no, he was the first black coach, but actually the first minority coach people don't realize was Tom Flores, because Tom Flores is Latin.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, he won the Super Bowls like in the early 80s, right? So, but he was. They were roommates, and Bernie is a very well-educated, well-spoken guy, right? So, and he helped me a lot. Like I won't bore too many people with my personal stuff, but my parents did have a kind of bad divorce, and he was super helpful. I was a 10, 11-year-old kid or whatever. So he's a really great guy, So
nice.
So
there was a time when like blacks could be on the team, but they weren't allowed to play quarterback?
Yeah.
Or was that just like an unspoken rule? Like that we're like, oh, we're not going to have a black guy play quarterback?
I think that.
If you want to play defense, it's fine though.
I don't know if there was ever like a rule banning it, but it was just like not a thing that was done for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Custis was drafted in like a later round, because back then they had like 20 rounds in the draft. And kind of cool segue because the draft is tonight,
Yeah, right.
But
Yeah.
right. So Custis was drafted, and Paul Brown, who was open, the owner of the Browns, right? The original coach and owner, right? He was open to Bernie being on the team, but he was like, look, there's no way even I can have a black quarterback. This is like early 1950s. So if you want to play quarterback, you're going to have to go to the CFL. He told Bernie that. So.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So
now, do you have any any final fun facts about Eleuthera or any Bahamas tidbits in general?
Yeah, I do a big Super Bowl party, so if any Stoolies want to come down next year, I can hook you up. Just don't be raging alcoholics that are going to get my house, raided by the DEA.
Keep it underneath the Captain Morgan threshold.
Yes.
Don't ask
I think
anyone to touch your dick.
I think a lot of Stoolies would like to party with Morgan.
Yeah, probably.
He does know how to party. He does know how to party. He's not, let's just say he's not completely off the blow.
I don't know. If you're looking for a more laid back, kind of like relaxed vacation that's not like gaudy casinos and like Donnie said, a lot of natural beauty. You have these beaches here that like nobody's on. You can, like I said, you can see both the Atlantic, go to a beach on the Atlantic. You can surf one day and then go to a beach that's flat a mile out in the same day, right? So if you want to do that sort of thing, it's a great place to come, And actually what's really underrated here is even though it's small, there's a lot of great little restaurants and food and that sort of thing here as well, right?
Yeah.
And I can help you with stone crabs.
Yeah,
So-
like I was shocked when I got down there. There was already a couple spots that had conch rangoons on the menus, and they were great.
Your girlfriend was nice enough to tell you that those were better than anything you ever made. The ones we had at the restaurant.
They were fantastic conch rangoons. And then wasn't the island of Eleuthera like settled by a bunch of people like from New England who were like, it was it was like Puritan colonists, so very similar to the Pilgrims. And they were like, first they got to Bermuda, and then Bermuda was getting too populated, so they just like took off in a boat and then found this island of Eleuthera and settled it.
Governor's Harbor was the original capital of Eleuthera.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And it was 1647 or 1648. I think it's 1648. I don't know. Yeah, I think it's 1648. That's why that resort French Leave, which Marriott owns, is called 1648, because that was the year Eleuthera was settled.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
So, and I guess what happened was Nassau became the capital because when there was still warring going on, it was more strategic, because if you look at Nassau, it's surrounded by other islands. So they could have outposts in Eleuthera or Abaco. And then if, when the Spanish were trying to invade, they could be warned, like, hey, the Spanish are going to be here in 2 days or something.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
When going back to Captain Morgan, I thought when I originally heard the story of his backstory, he just like happened to find a kilo of cocaine on the beach, or like he was like walking the beach and just like found a bunch, or was it just because he took over the drug dealer's business?
I think he found it because it was dropped off. Like it was,
Yeah.
Like, they do that. Like one time I was in my hot tub and I'm like, just like hanging out, obviously, and having a drink or something. And then I see this plane, and I literally thought this plane was going to crash. And I hear that sound, like that diving sound.
Mm-hmm.
And then the plane stops like 50 or 100 feet over the ocean and just starts flying south. And I'm like, everyone was telling me afterwards, like, that's probably a drug plane, like, because it's probably just dropping stuff off,
Yeah.
And then someone on a boat knows where to pick it up.
Yeah.
And so when that other drug dealer went to jail, Captain Morgan probably knew where he stashed all his coke and was just able to take over the business.
And a lot of times when they know the DEA is going to be here and stuff, there's these like natural holes that are in kind of the bush that drop like 20 feet or something, and they'll just drop them in there and stuff like that to hide them. Right. So.
Well, Dave, man, thanks for coming on. If you're listening to this, check out his new book, Mega Returns. And maybe I'll hit you up for some stock advice as well.
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, Don, you're more than welcome to ever come down here again, right?
Yeah. Chaps as well.
And Chaps.
Hey,
and
thanks for including me, Donnie.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, Chaps. And does Zaw ever get his like permanent residency?
I'm not too sure about Zaw.
Okay.
No, he's still working through it.
Okay.
If you ever
some
want to come down
issues
here,
now.
I do have to show this quickly. I'm a huge Leeds United fan. My dad was born in Leeds.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
They just got promoted on Monday back to the Premier League.
All right.
So
Let's go Leeds.
I mean, I would love to watch a Leeds Arsenal game with Zaw, right?
There you go.
All right. I will extend the invite. All right, man. Yeah. I mean, I love the Bahamas. I would love to get back down there. So I'll let you know.
Yeah, for sure. Well, remember, we're going to do your bachelor party down here.
That was a tentative idea. I ended up not really doing a bachelor party.
Yeah. You can tell just quickly, the idea was, just how we sign off here, is that the Bahamas is one of the only countries in the world, basically it requires like no visas from anywhere. So it'd be like a good meeting point from all the people that Donnie's met.
I could have Jamal from Tajikistan, could have Pongzai from China. Yeah, we could have the whole crew. Congregate
have to find
at Porno Dave's.
Obviously.
Party at Porno Dave's. Everybody get down to a Luthra stat.
I would love to meet Pongzai. That would be the best.
I know. He's a little too, he doesn't even like to leave his own village. So I don't know if we're going to get him out of the country, but I'll keep trying.
Okay, man. Take care.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, Dave.